Now the second part, we will have this situation here, which was I have my environment. My environment got engulfed by the projected fail from inside, considering other areas or the interaction and integration from other areas at the environment that I'd like to engulf, having the one specific notation here as domain of circumstance. Of course, that this go as a process, and it's a process explicitly projected, but as something hidden, ongoing, and clandestine. And as we told, we will need the misguided use of power, department, and functions, including the records. The obstruction in general cover all crimes. The obstruction is made in general by public departments, going by specific charge. You please take a look. GSS Euro 2022 tracedecember.blogspot.com. It's about the show business and the trial on United Kingdom. We have arguments there. We have arguments at the Brazilian Constitution to request all information you need. Consider the Article 144. Everybody and anyone must have interest at the security and the stability, foreigners and nationals. And equally, everybody and anyone has the right to request information needed by Article 5, guarantee number 33. If you do not observe this, the guarantee 41 says that you will suffer the application of the law, not only the Brazilian law, but the law. We will check that this kind of thing now as a linear projection. We will consider the third dimension situation as our environment. Our environment with a fail at the center, considering the budget with the use as the top chair, going in all areas, not only in Brazil, and the association with failures in other areas indeed are going by global events scheduled with the purpose, I would say, in a very first moment, saying that is something regular, and everybody will believe that is something regular as a global event surrounding your system, the idea and speech as globalism, but things didn't show it like this, and the pyramid as Ponzi scheme was made, was set, and it's ongoing with gains and results. Things indeed are observed very clear as the circle of your activity and capacity to apply the law, your constitution, and this kind of aggression will violate the preamble of your constitution, the guarantees of your constitution, going in all areas little by little. Things will be bizarre in global scale. It's the trust, the object at the antitrust justice in USA. The conviction of all based on the law and with the application as the proper application of the law is a guarantee. We will observe now that if you request this information at the Brazilian system, of course that you will have a lot of things there, including the lower capacity to present arguments according with the law by chairs on institution. And if they had this as a constitutional duty, they equally do not respect their own constitution. Why they will respect the others' constitution? It's something that was proven equally. But we will have here that this kind of thing sets a huge instability in global scale. Sometimes will affect the relation between the state and the society. Sometimes will affect the relation inside a contract. Sometimes will affect the bank system in global scale, putting down the fiduciary argument as one of the essential elements and anglestones of the international financial system and the bank system. You have the opportunity now to consider that all money diverted around the globe with transference to one specific area on Asia indeed are stored as something legal in one specific area on Asia. Request the information, not proper information offered by sampling, perception, and the behavior of the money, which has at the source and the origin the same time as evaluation of this value, you can got, for instance, by a cross-cut using the constitutional guarantee in Brazil, having all information unique. We will observe equally now something like this. The groups of artists that are here, considering all artists, had made contracts, and some contracts in general had loss as inner loss at the contract. And little by little, this loss got projected, and the artists kind of are, starving now, passing through very difficult situations. And for sure, this kind of very difficult situation put them in a vulnerability, a situation as vulnerable, even at the show business, if run by elements and arguments that we could observe hurting legal rights, civil rights, and guarantees of the person, the projection of this person can be the artist, the kind of activity at the show business that now is only transferring stimulus about drugs, sex, prostitution, and criminal interest and stimulation until have the interest affected or equally evidenced. The interests of the agencies will be linked with the agents that are associated with the artists. You close the agencies, you send the agents to jail, you obtain the information and plea bargain of the artists, considering the exploitation and vulnerability or aggression suffered, sometimes hurt really serious, and if they do not talk, they are part of the problem. Going like this, indeed, we will observe that the laws at the contract will probably be refunded based on the contractual review at from the judicial system in United Kingdom. This contractual review will now be compared with the information on Asia that has the transference from India and sourced on UK, this workflow. Now, we are working with this economic model as econometric for an anti-crime purpose, considering the first transference as resource through India until get the Asia. Now you will have the contractual review of artists, considering that the players, the heads of these artists, which can be the agents or the agents, indeed are related with some area, and then you check the destiny of transference and the interest on it. If now we are working with two types of control, the first one considering the artists, and the second one considering the bank system as transference to Asia. To both with failures inside, as the macro perception of artists until engulf the entire show business. The second one at the financial system that got so huge that you create the cryptocurrency and physiological elements at the clandestine level, not totally filled and having ourselves inside by this kind of corruption, not planned by you, but as a consequence of one essential property at the economy, which is the limited resource. considering the argument to sustain your lie. Then we'll check that we are doing now the drill down, comparing two different areas, which is the area S square, I would say, or the area S square, or the area S the criminal element at the square affected by the increment as circle, like the artist doing the complaint as loss at the contract based on the criminal activity and influence, or the international financial system suffering corrosive arguments as inflation and risk rates by the clandestine gains based on the risk, and the risk became the purpose, the motivation to organize the financial system. And in both cases, we will have the failures on it. In both cases, we will have the failures on it. Indeed, we will check that the value with the quoting mark is the criminal element, or the notation that the criminal activity unsatisfied, in general the vulnerable. They are doing the cooperation, so we will not considering this quoting mark anymore. It's the result of the plea bargain. And we will check that indeed those peers as failures going inside the contract at the show business, real contracts or contracts made by artists under exploitation and vulnerability, will carry for sure the same players as criminals and chairs, considering the agents as variables that can be the agents at the show business, the chair at the institution, or the agencies, which are the moral entity, the organization or organogram at the show business, or equally at the institution. All caught using our simple economic theory. And why you got so pressured and in a hush so big? Because you are suffering a charge legitimate, and you decided to strike the legitimacy of this charge. And when you set, for instance, the clandestine workflow and methods to cover this, indeed in Brazil, and considering the sampling activity and cross-cut, having the projection by complementary relation with all others around the globe, you got unveiled as criminal interest. The interest is one of the elements at the motivation. The motivation is one of the causes at the intention. And the combination between the motivation, the intention as interest, going as criminal activity, all those crimes, especially as systematic activity, are intentional. Result, all guilty. Any question? Elements boxed here, considering the grid, can be transferred to the international area as neutral jurisdiction, having the hearing procedure at the Ministry of Sound UK as a judicial ground. And in the international area as neutral jurisdiction is suggested the better guarantee as police. Not a law, not a guarantee, just a police. Equally all others you didn't respect, especially at the development and protection of mankind and humanity. And by reciprocity goes like this. Have a great holiday.